This is the Ken Hudnall Show, coming to you from our studios right here in exciting El Paso, Texas, gateway to the Old West and the most haunted city in the country. Well, today is August the 15th, 227th day of the year. Only 138 days remaining to year's over with. Holidays observances. National Lemon Meringue Pie Day. Loosen as your mind drifts away to a peaceful oasis of tranquility and calm. Just stretch out and enjoy yourself. National Acadian Day. Now, the French Canadian colony of Acadia has got quite a rich culture and history, which many don't know about. And today is the time to learn. It's National Acadian Day. Kool-Aid Day. Revitalize those taste buds with a burst of fruity, refreshing powdered beverage. Oh, I used to love making Kool-Aid. Men's Grooming Day. End the scruffiness and disarray and focus on your grooming for a change. Gold Cup Parade. The Nile Festival. It celebrates the Nile's contribution to life and the river's role in shaping the lives and histories of those who live along its banks. It's a vibrant occurrence filled with color, music, and joy. Brings communities together along the Nile, transforming the area into a lively hub of festivities. Now, the Nile has quite a history. National Back to School Day. National Check the Chip Day. It's time for you to make an appointment with your veterinarian to check the chip. That keeps your pet safe. GPS or ID chips can help return your pet if they get lost. Our dog has lost so much weight she walked through the bars of our front gate. And somebody picked her up, took her to their house. Luckily, I tracked him down. Rural Greatness Day. Chin at the Moon Day, which is kind of a takeoff on Howl at the Moon Day. The Chin at the Moon Day is a little break from the ordinary. People go outside and look up at the night sky and let out a chant or a cheer or even a howl toward the glowing moon. You never know who's going to answer you. Little Cowboys and Cowgirls Day. National No SpongeBob Day. Hawaiian Shirt Day. National Leathercraft Day. Indian Independence Day. It's a chapter in that nation's narrative echoing courage and freedom. Assumption Day. It's a significant celebration for a lot of Christians around the world. For believers, it's a moment to reflect on the divine grace bestowed upon Mary and its meaning in their faith. The holds a deep spiritual significance. Symbolizes the hope of eternal life and promise of being united with God. All right. Crayfish Party, Elvis Week, Afternoon Tea Week, National Fishing Month, Bullying No Way Week, Sarajevo Film Festival, which goes on through the 22nd. It's Southeast Europe's largest and most vibrant film festival. Every year it transforms the city into a lively hub, drawing filmmakers and actors and movie enthusiasts from around the globe. Known for its warm and welcoming atmosphere, this festival offers a space where local and international cinema blend in seamlessly. National Science Week. Nevajard and Jan Mastami, which goes on through today. It's one of the most joyous festivals celebrated across India and by Hindus worldwide. They honors the birth of Lord Krishna, a deity known for his wisdom and playfulness and divine teachings. Krishna's life symbolizes the triumph of good over evil, teaches values like love and compassion and righteousness. Also celebrates his playful mood and playful childhood, filled with charming tales that reflect joy and innocence and mischief. And National Bargain Hunting Week. Go to discount stores and check out what they got. Famous people born on this date: Nipsey Hussle, Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lawrence, Joe Jonas. Right. All that having been said, let us now see what stories we have in the news. Because there's always something going on. The NATO defense minister signals absolute distrust that Putin wants any peace deal ahead of his summit meeting with Trump. European allies remain skeptical Putin wants peace while the Russian bombardment of Ukraine continues daily. According to Lithuanian Defense Minister Dovilė Sakalini, even now when your president's clearly stated he wants this war to end, it basically provides an opportunity for Putin to talk every single day and night. Until those talks, he keeps bombing the civilians. No, doesn't seem to show he wants to have any peace. Pam Bondi has just fired a D.C. police chief. And here we go with another ad. Okay. And even though Washington, D.C. is supposed to be a sanctuary city, she has rescinded the sanctuary city protections in her crime crackdown operation. DEA Administrator Terry Cole been granted full powers over the Metro Police Department. The Pam Bondi's on a roll. She issued a 2-page order yesterday rescinding illegal immigration protection in Washington, D.C., naming an emergency police commissioner for the city's Metropolitan Police Department. Her order, titled Restoring Safety and Security to the District of Columbia, mostly took aim at sanctuary city policies within the nation's capital, rescinds any order that limits how Metropolitan police officers can handle interactions and incidents with illegal migrants, and stripped power from the Metropolitan Police Chief, Pamela Smith, by naming Drug Enforcement Administrator Terry Cole's department's Emergency Police Commissioner. And he got all the powers and duties vested in that position. She's not playing games, folks. Well, another one of God's anointed has ordered RFK Jr.'s Health and Human Services to stop sharing Medicaid data with immigration officials, to include addresses. This preliminary injunction affects 20 states that sued to stop the sharing of Medicaid enrollees' personal information with immigration officials. District Judge Vince Shabria, an Obama appointee, granted a preliminary injunction blocking the Department of Homeland Security from using Medicaid data obtained from 20 states that filed a lawsuit to stop the data sharing. Yes, when you're one of God's anointed, you're above the president. You operate in a rare atmosphere that allows you to make your own rules. Well, growing up, you hear all this stuff about exercise and eat right, and you'll live long. Well, bodybuilder and nutritionalist Haley McNeff just died at age 37. My great-grandmother, who I was alive until I was 19 or 20. Used to chew snuff and drank alcohol and just had a great time. So, go figure. Well, Joe Rogan said voters expected Trump's ICE to target the violent criminals, not the laborers and landscapers. Rogan agreed some anti-ICE riots are manufactured, but the scale of the raids generally freaks people out. And yes, there are companies that get paid to produce mobs. And those mobs, of course, are acting to cover up the fact that most Americans are in favor of getting rid of the undocumented immigrants. Well, the new ICE vehicles that are seen in Washington, D.C. have Trump's name emblazoned in gold on the side. Now, the CEO of one of the companies that produces mobs said protester requests are surging after massive demand under Trump. There was one riot that got a lot of media attention. Turned out folks were paid $25 an hour to riot. For $25 an hour, I'd get out there and do it. Of course, you don't have much of a retirement program. Well, mortgage rates have dropped to the lowest level of 2025, and borrowers are taking advantage of it. Let's see what average rate on the benchmark 30-year fixed mortgage fell to 6.58%. That's according to Freddie Mac. Last week it was 6.63. Average rate on a 30-year loan was 6.49 a year ago. Well, the market is in flux, of course. Well, according to science, people who live to be 100 years old or older have one thing in common, other than not dying. Centenarians, those that live to 100, have lower disease rates throughout their lives. And then when they get a disease, they develop them slowly, less likely to experience fatal conditions compared to people who live shorter lives. It was a 2024 study from Sweden, published in the journal Geroscience, considered historical data from people over 60 years old, born between 1912 and 1922. Then they also followed these individuals from 72 to 2022, considered the age of their death and medical complications like stroke and myocardial infarction and hip fracture and various cancers. The 100-year-olds seem to be able to delay and avoid a lot of major age-related diseases rather than simply surviving them. Well, the District of Columbia, the Attorney General for the District of Columbia, rejects U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi's order as unlawful. So now we're going to have a showdown. She told the D.C. Attorney General told the police chief she's not legally obligated to follow Bondi's order. So we're going to see what happens. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. You notice something interesting about all these places that the crime has just gone rampant? They either have female mayors or they have minority mayors. But in almost every case, they've got Democratic mayors. Well, Democratic frontrunner in the Virginia gubernatorial race has declined an invitation from CNN to debate her opponent. I don't think I'd take an invitation up here on CNN either. You'd be there by your lonesome. Well, New York City residents are slamming safe injection sites. Those are places set up where drug users can go to shoot up. But the problem is they trashed the neighborhood. Nearly 6,000 addicts used illegal drugs 38,000 times at city facilities in the past year. Can you say enabling? Well, I wonder, back in my day, when I was in school, you got out of line. You may get punished at school, but by the time you got home, your parents knew about it. Well, that's no longer the case. In fact, the schools offer literally no punishment. Look at the anti-Semitic riots that have broken out. Schools haven't done anything about them at all. Now, according to one GOP senator, President Trump is constantly knocking down the wars that have raged around the planet. If he can put an end to the Russia-Ukraine war, that's quite an achievement. FBI has uncovered 1.3 million school crimes in which parents have been completely left in the dark. Let's see. This report shows only half of law enforcement agencies submitted data, suggesting the actual numbers could be much higher. Between 2020 and 2024, law enforcement agencies reported nearly 1.3 million criminal incidents occurring on school property across the country. This includes about 540,000 assaults and 45,000 sexual offenses. Crimes that directly victimize children in places supposed to be safe havens for learning. And the problem is these numbers are almost certainly an undercount. Only about 9,000 law enforcement agencies submitted data for the report, even though there are about 18,000 of these agencies nationwide. You know, kids shouldn't be trapped in dangerous schools. Everyday children are exposed to violence and abuse and chaos in these government-run institutions. Assaults, of course, make up the bulk of these crimes, turning hallways and classrooms into battlegrounds. And sex offenses are a chilling reminder that predators lurk in places we least expect them. Parents send the kids to school expecting education, not endangerment. Well, part of the problem is the schools enable the bullies. I know I had that issue. Only way I finally put a stop to it, right in front of the office with the principal standing there. One guy who liked to bully me decided to shove me. I turned around and popped him one. And when the principal got involved, of course, I was the aggressor. I said, okay, if I'm the aggressor, get out of my way, and I went after him. And of course, he had to intercede at that point to protect the guy who was twice my size. Well, Holly Berry, her ex-husband, talks about her mothering. So she posted some pictures showing that she may be a physical mother. She's got all the equipment to be far more than that. Well, there's something called a golden visa, where the elite can go to play and, in their mind, cavort with their equals. And there are three exclusive golden visa destinations that Americans' wealthiest are looking to go to. And apparently, according to statistics, America's elite are actually looking for these golden visas. No, many Americans are realizing a second residency or citizenship is the ultimate insurance policy against uncertainty. Gives them an almost unmatched mobility, flexibility, and security in a world that's becoming increasingly unpredictable. Look at Jimmy Kimmel, who's bragging about having Italian citizenship. Just as gold has historically been a best-in-class investment as a store of value, these so-called golden visas are premium assets that provide their holders and their families tangible and intangible benefits for the long term. And a lot of political divisions have influenced wealthy Americans to weigh their options. They're not necessarily moving permanently to these areas where they have the visas, but they might be acquiring the freedom to have another option. The three that are most popular right now are Malta, United Arab Emirates, and Portugal. Each option offers its own distinct benefits, and all three open the door to new cultures, safer environments, and the ability to live life on your own terms. Malta and Portugal offer access to world-class health care. And education in the European Union costs less than in the U.S., and while the United Arab Emirates offers a high standard of living, zero income tax, and a thriving international community. Each of these three golden visa destinations requires prospective visa holders to invest about $500,000 in qualifying investments, venture capital funds, and scientific or technological research. About $250,000 can be invested in cultural heritage preservation or in creating at least 10 full-time jobs in Portugal, according to that country's site. Malta's program enables more people to access the visas by actually lowering the barriers. Malta's recently transitioned from a citizenship by investment model to a citizenship by merit framework. That's meant that approval is granted to applications based on their skills and innovation rather than just the size of their economic contribution. Well, China has tightened up its rare earth rules, warns foreign firms against stockpiling. President Reagan's warning has come true as socialist candidates gain traction in New York City. We may have a socialist mayor now. Whether he'll be able to accomplish anything that he wants to do or not is to be determined. Well, another one of God's anointed, this one appointed by President Trump, has struck down anti-DEI measures from the Department of Education. This federal court's blocked Education Department threats to cut funding over diversity programs. District Judge Stephanie Gallagher in Maryland found the Education Department violated the law when it threatened to cut federal funding from educational institutions that continued its DEI initiatives. Well, everybody's moving out of California. The CEO of Playboy calls California anti-business as the company flees Miami Beach for its new headquarters. They say Miami's business-friendly environment and cultural relevance are the primary reasons. You know, Newsom and his lunatic ideas are going to be the the end, California, if this keeps up. Specific symptoms could warn of MS more than a decade before diagnosis, according to a new study. People with multiple sclerosis show warning signs long before the classic symptoms appear. And the mental health concerns can be among the first red flags. Researchers found that future MS patients had elevated rates of mental health related issues, psychiatrists and general practice visits, and complaints of vague symptoms such as fatigue and pain. And these can show up as much as 15 years before the onset of the more accepted symptoms. Well, let's see what else we got. You know, we've been talking about a lot of odd, shall we say, topics. And today's topic is going to be one that I always find it interesting. You know, there are a lot of places around the world that are actually referred to as just creepy. From sinister abandoned asylums, forests infested with phantoms and folklore monsters that roamed the landscapes, to houses that were once home to homicidal maniacs, museums devoted to the macabre, and castles haunted by things from the past. If you're going to do a lot of traveling, you need to check into the history of the things to be found in your accepted destination. You know, now you may say, what do you actually mean by cursed and creepy? Because every word has several definitions. You know, for as long as man has walked the planet, there have been matters of the strange and unexplained that frighten and excite people. The earliest civilizations formulated protective rituals, magical seals to keep the spirits of the dead away from their doors. Others invited their ancestors into their homes and minds in the hope of receiving wisdom from beyond the grave. You know, ideas of ghosts and hauntings have evolved with time, of course, but we've always searched for meaning in what lies beyond. Beyond life, that is, beyond death, beyond the universe, or even just beyond the edge of the woods. You know, the paranormal or the supernatural literally means something that's beyond nature and refers to any strange, unexplained phenomena that's currently outside our human or scientific understanding. And let me be very clear, science doesn't understand much of what they say they do. A lot of stories and beliefs fall under the paranormal umbrella, including the ancient ideas of undead spirits as well as psychics, aliens, and cryptids. Cryptids is a topic we're going to be talking about next week. The idea of exploring paranormal phenomena reached mainstream popularity by the early 2000s due to TV shows like Most Haunted. Some of the most important and influential investigators were conducting their work centuries before 2000s, though. Harry Price, who was born in 1881, British researcher who made his name investigating haunted houses and exposing fraudulent mediums, and literally created the template for a lot of investigators today. And before Price, there was a Victorian writer, Catherine Crowell, who first introduced the term poltergeist. That's the German word. It actually means noisy spirit. This denotes a ghost with a tendency to haunt people, not places, and show their presence through what you might consider brute force, destruction, and harassment. Ground's collection of paranormal reports and investigations from 1848. One is The Night Side of Nature, and the other is Ghosts and Ghost Seers. Remains popular and celebrated as the first example of paranormal investigation. You know, many of the destinations that we're going to talk about are paranormal hotspots. So we're going to look at some of the more common places that people discuss. You know, we're going to talk about ghosts that are generally agreed to be the spirits of the soul or of a deceased person or animal. They're also called phantoms and apparitions. Apparition, of course, is the visible ghost. Wraiths or specters. They've been recorded as long ago as ancient Mesopotamia, about 6,000 BC, where a spirit called Gidim was created at the time of death, taking on the personality and memories of the deceased individual. In contemporary Western society, we view ghosts as either echoes of long deceased humans or sentient spirits cursed to walk the earth due to unfinished business. But it was the Victorians who produced the golden age of ghost stories, where spirits would return to right wrongs or strengthen morals or reveal misdemeanors and misbehaviors. This great literary era reflects enormously in our modern attitudes about ghosts, suggesting we can learn from the haunting mistakes of our past, but also that ghosts may or may not be all that they seem. Ghosts can be friendly and benevolent, or weak, reduced to a shriek in the night or a creak on the floorboards. Then, of course, when you're talking about the paranormal, you're also talking about curses. It's believed that negative energies, not just spirits, can attach themselves to places and objects, sometimes to people. There are a lot of religious roots for curses, including a great number from the Bible, where Noah curses Canaan and Christ curses the fig tree. In Hinduism, a rishi, or a sage, is able to both bless and curse. In African American hoodoo, practitioners can curse or jinx at will. And you got tales of curses that flooded the media after the development of Egyptology in the early 19th century, and the discovery in 1922 of Tutankhamun's tomb elevated tales of curses into the mainstream media. Now, also in the paranormal realm, you'll find UFOs, or as they're called now, UAPs. The aliens and UFOs continue to be a source of fear, fascination, and conspiracy theories for enthusiasts and governments alike. Several hundred reports tied to official bodies every year. Sightings of unidentified flying objects have occurred in waves throughout time, with medieval manuscripts documenting a celestial phenomenon, the mass hysteria that followed after that. Every so often, today's governments cause sensations by declassifying and releasing old UFO files. Joe Rogan just interviewed a elected official who talked about the fact that there are, in fact, aliens walking among us. Then we got stories of cryptids and monsters. Now, cryptozoology is the study of creatures that are not currently known to conventional science. It's studied by cryptozoologists who believe that a lot of these creatures are yet to be discovered. Belief that's strengthened by the scientific treatment of animals such as the duck-billed platypus and the okapi, both of which were literally thought to be hoaxes. Cryptids such as Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, are celebrities in their own right, despite there being no proof that these mysterious animals ever existed. No modern monster hunters continue to search for creatures that have eluded science. Alien big cat sightings, such as the beast of the Bodmin Moor, continue with theories of their existence, ranging from escaped exotic pets to Ice Age survivors. A lot of cryptids are linked to cultural beliefs and continue to cause hysteria to this day. Then, of course, we have gods and alternative beliefs. Supernatural sightings, often linked to personal, spiritual, and religious beliefs. Apparitions of angels and saints have been reported during periods of religious ecstasy, and visions of gods and guides can be induced by individuals in order to progress or enlighten their spirituality. Creatures such as angels and demons may be based in established religion, but have been accepted by differing beliefs across the globe. Then we have stories of satanic worship. They're often found in tales of haunted locations and negative energies. Meanwhile, alternative religions such as paganism and Wicca and Druidry may have several gods for several different purposes, such as fertility or protection, or they may worship nature as a singular benevolent power. Now, one thing you have to do as you wander in this particular area of research is increase your glossary. For example, esoteric means secretive, schools of thought. How about ESP, extrasensory perception, also known as the sixth sense? Quite often in this discussion you'll hear the word Fortean used. Used interchangeably with paranormal. The term derives from the surname of Charles Fort, who died in 1932, investigated so-called anomalous phenomena. And let's not forget Ghoul, an evil spirit entity originating in pre-Islamic Arabian religion. Ghost lore is myth, legend, or stories and folklore that discuss ghosts. Metaphysics, the philosophy of the fundamental nature of reality. Occult, that word very simply means hidden. But it also can refer to esoteric supernatural beliefs and practices including astrology, alchemy, and magic. How about seance? From the French word session, or to sit, denotes an activity where people gather around and attempt to communicate with ghosts. Quite often these days they use a Ouija board. And spiritualism is a social and religious movement that began in the mid-19th century, based upon the belief that spirits exist within a spirit world and have the ability and inclination to communicate with the living. Quite frankly, there's some parts of this that I question, but there's actually a new area of tourism known as haunted tourism. People go on expensive trips in order to have the bejesus scared out of them. Now, we have a natural tendency toward the macabre and a curiosity that would literally kill a cat, leading to an insatiable appetite for the supernatural. I know people who paid a lot of money to go on various tours. I used to do ghost tours here. I did it for 20 years. And people paid me to take them around and tell them the stories of various locations. If you find my book, Haunted Hotels, you'll see on the cover a picture of a ghost that was taken by somebody and given to me. You know, dark tourism is having a resurgence lately. There's our Netflix shows that deal with it, or maybe you've listened to podcasts such as this one. And if you want to hear the show, I suggest you go, when you see it show up in Netflix, on YouTube or some of the other sites where we're found. Click like. Ask to be put on the list to get copies sent to you automatically. Dark tourism is defined as tourism to sites associated with death and tragedy and the macabre. Most famous dark tourism destinations include Auschwitz, Ground Zero, and the Cambodian killing fields. But a lot of dark tourists also enjoy exploring graveyards, catacombs, even castles, crossing over into haunted tourism and legend tripping. It's seemingly human nature to be fascinated by mankind's own morbid history. Look at our obsession with true crime and box office thrillers. People also seek out only the most salacious historical events and traffic jams caused by onlookers who can't help but take a peek at the car crash on the other side of the road. Our ancestors were similarly enthralled, if not more so, finding pleasures, gladiatorial games, and flocking to witness the latest public executions. Used to be, even here in El Paso. Hangings were public. You could buy tickets. There were bleachers set up. You could get refreshments, souvenirs. It's not just death itself that spikes our interest. I mean, there's a reason why unsolved mysteries often ventures into the world of the paranormal. It's the thrill of the unknown and the tales we tell ourselves. A lot of these dark destinations actually have very little to see, but it's the stories left on these spaces that spark our curiosity. The legend and lore associated with the places that draws us back generation after generation. I mean, I had some tours. I had 40 or 50 people follow me around the town while I told them about the bizarre stories associated with the various locations. Seeking out spooky tales and situations is not a new phenomenon. No, not by any means. In fact, humanity's often been scaring the bejesus out of one another for millennia, telling tales of spots where the undead have arisen from their graves, or warning others about the monsters lurking in deep, dark waters, are not a new phenomenon. Nor is the instinct to go see for ourselves. From tales of ghosts haunting bathhouses in the first century and terrifying biblical demons to modern-day fear surrounding satanic cults and terrifying little green men appearing from outer space, we've been forever not only afraid of, but utterly obsessed with the things that go bump in the night. With so many imaginative stories of what could be hiding in the dark, you'd think an activity associated with being scared. It turns out we actually enjoy being scared. Now, studies have shown that fear gives us an adrenaline rush, and we're hardwired to crave and seek out releases of those feel-good hormones called endorphins. A good horror movie leaves you feeling just as buzzed as doing a 10-mile run. And if a book or a TV show or movie can get our palms sweaty enough to feel satisfied, imagine what venturing into a real-life nightmare setting could do. Not only is feeling fright therapeutic, it also is addictive. Just like the gym, some people say. We just can't get enough of scaring ourselves silly. But it's not just fear that draws us to the supernatural. It actually offers an escape for a lot of folks. Supernatural stories like Harry Potter and the Twilight Saga, two of the most popular franchises in the world, and some of the highest grossing films of all time include the paranormal, from E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark to Pirates of the Caribbean. Outside of fiction, we're in the midst of a paranormal boom with witchcraft reaching mainstream media and mainstream attention. A lot of Generation Zers claim abilities from reading auras and divination to being able to communicate with plants. Meanwhile, ghost tours have grown so popular, almost every town has one. One study has shown that our fascination with ghosts can help us to talk about the taboo subjects of death, and haunted attractions often tackle the subject in a lighthearted manner. And not only that, but folklore stories can help bring to life the history of a place, educating us as well as providing stimulating entertainment and inspiring a lot of folks to take on an interest in history. You know, early on, I became fascinated with history. I lived in an area that my ancestors had helped settle. So, of course, I wanted to know what my ancestors had been up to. And then there's also the topic of legend tripping, essentially a supernatural pilgrimage and one of the oldest and most culturally ingrained forms of haunted or dark tourism. In fact, haunted tourism is actually legend tripping in and of itself. Chances are, even if you haven't set out to do so, you did it as a child. Remember when kids would dare each other to knock on the door of that old house that everybody knew was haunted? Or make the journey down to the railway tracks where some poor young man allegedly lost his life? According to writer Bill Ellis, legend tripping is an excursion into places where something uncanny has allegedly occurred with the intention of experiencing something supernatural. Then we've got simulated spirits. During the 19th century, appetites for the spooky and spooky tourism reached its peak. The rise of spiritualism had audiences flooding to seances. Many were believed to be real. Others later admitted to have been faked. And there was also the interest in ghost story recitals and performances by magicians and psychics. People actually began seeking out spirits for themselves, armed with new technology such as photography. Status from the Society for Psychical Research in 1882 only cemented the fact that interest in the paranormal was considerable. A lot of entertainers saw an opportunity to capitalize, leading to the rise of haunted attractions such as the Orton and Spooner Ghost House, which opened in 1915 in Liphook, England. But these simulated frights were more akin to a fairground ride than it was to anything else. Then we've got the belief that we want to believe. A lot of mid-century anthropologist Anthony Wallace predicted that the belief in supernatural beings and supernatural forces that affected nature without obeying nature's laws will erode and become only an interesting historical memory. Well, as we can see, he was wrong. One recent study by Chapman University discovered many Americans still believe in the paranormal. From the most common superstitions such as haunted houses to Bigfoot and soothsayers. In fact, more Americans believe in the supernatural than believe in scientific theories such as Darwin's theory of evolution, or that humanity has any impact on climate change. Now that's one I have a little difficulty accepting. Similar studies have shown that large portions of people living in other scientifically advanced nations continue to believe in paranormal phenomena, One UK study revealed a similar pattern of faith. Over half the British public believed in ghosts, and over 30% are convinced aliens have visited the Earth. Well, the most current studies show that 52% of Americans have paranormal beliefs. 58% believe in ghosts. 41% believe in aliens. 26% believe in telekinesis, the power to move things with the mind. 21% believe in Bigfoot. And 17% believe in psychic ability. I used to have psychics on my show. And one man by the name of Robert McKnight could absolutely blow your mind with the things that he could come up with. Well, if you're going to perform a paranormal investigation, there's certain tools of the trade, so to speak. Now, investigating the paranormal can be fun and easy. But to enhance the experience, you need to add a few items to your toolkit. Number one is a camera. Or either a picture camera or a video camera. Not only can you capture pictures of strange phenomena, but using a video camera means that you can revisit and analyze your investigation and see if you missed any evidence at the time. How about a dictaphone? You might know it as a tape recorder. That's a must for any budding investigator. You record audio from your experiments and play it back later, or use recorders to communicate with spirits. How about an EMF meter? These are devices that measure the electromagnetic frequency of an item or a location, also known as K2 meters. They commonly have a series of colored bulbs which light up or sound an alarm when it measures spikes in energy. It can be used to detect the location or the spirit energy, or ask ghosts to come closer to the device and to signal you with a yes or no answer. And if you really get into it, you might get a spirit box. It's also known as a radio hack. It's a small electronic device that quickly sweeps through radio waves and can be programmed to cycle faster, slower, or even backward. While the audio sounds like white noise, some believe that spirits can use these scrambled frequencies to communicate. And of course, let's not forget having a Ouija board, because you can use that to have a seance. Seance can be as simple as sitting around a table, clearing your mind and calling out, asking the spirits to communicate with you. Or you might have a spirit board, also known as a Ouija board these days. It's a flat sheet with the alphabet and simple commands printed on it that can be an integral tool in such an experiment. Well, now that we've talked about the toolkit, let's talk about some haunted locations. Now, one of the first ones I want to talk about, and that was the Enfield House, located in London, England. It was when Peggy Hodgson called the local police to come to her rented terrace home at 284 Green Street. She was obviously in distress. Now, she was a single mother raising 4 children, and as her kids prepared for bed one August evening in 1977, she heard a strange noise coming from upstairs. Thinking that it was her daughters, 13-year-old Margaret and 11-year-old Janet, scuffling as they routinely did. She went to look and encountered something terrifying. A heavy chest began sliding across the room without any assistance. When Peggy began shoving it back, she met strong resistance from an unseen force. Chest moved a second time, even faster. Well, as you might guess, mother and children got the hell out of the room. When the police arrived, they found nothing unusual until they started to leave. Years later, one of the investigating officers mentioned a chair in the living room rising off the floor and moving across the room. After they checked for wires and other unseen reasons for the chair to have moved, the police left. Quickly, I might add. But the Enfield poltergeist didn't leave. For months, that poltergeist wreaked havoc, apparently throwing objects and making noises. Well, as news of the phenomena spread, skeptics accused the girls of being the sources of all the problems. In desperation, Peggy contacted the Society for Psychical Research. Two investigators, Guy Lyon Playfair and Reese Gross, responded. And they even hired a barrister, which was I review him as an administrative attorney. They handle office work. They don't usually go into court. Mary Rose Barrington, to verify their research, was the barrister that was hired. And during more than a year on the premises, investigators recorded numerous incidents, including Playfair's encounter. He entered an upstairs room to find the entire Victorian-era fireplace ripped out of the wall. Hardly something those young girls could have accomplished. Witnesses saw Janet levitate. She was dragged by an unknown entity from her bedroom and thrown down the stairs. She also broke into disturbing fits of cursing, and an eerie voice was heard coming from her. When investigators posed questions, the voice replied it belonged to a man by the name of Bill. A record search revealed that a man named Bill had lived and died in that house. His name was Bill Wilkins. Throughout the investigation, the girls were suspected of playing tricks, but they claimed that very few of the occurrences were their doing. 30 years after the events subsided, Janet told an investigator, "I know from my own experience it was real. It lived off me, it lived off my energy." And though the skeptics did persist, the poltergeist activity in Enfield remains largely unexplained to this day. Enfield is still a residential house, so it's recommended you not disturb the current occupants by knocking on the door and asking to talk to the poltergeist. Well, on that note, we come to the end of today's show. We're going to be talking about more haunted locations on Monday, because this is Friday. So until Monday at this time, this is Ken Hudnall for the Ken Hudnall Show, saying have a truly great weekend.